Hello, and welcome to Young Valley Leaders, WDIY's newest monthly show featuring the upcoming movers and shakers in your backyard, making it happen for themselves and our community. I'm your host, Lewis Holzman, and today I'm here with Jack Reilly.
Hey, Lewis, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, Jack. Thanks for coming on the show. A Valley native, Jack hails from Center Valley and attended Lafayette and now lives and works in downtown Allentown. You're a big part of the development of some of the major projects happening in our Valley's urban cores, certainly in Allentown, but also Easton, definitely Bethlehem, and the surrounding suburbs even. So definitely a unique viewpoint into our area's forward movement and evolution. One of the few children that's involved, or one of a few, I should say, children involved in what has become a family business with City Center Group. Jack and your team, you're really molding the streets and the cityscape of Allentown and to support the population of the Valley that's continuing to grow, the businesses that are coming here, calling it home, and helping to promote everything that's happening. Lots that we're going to be able to dig into here and excited to hear your perspective. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to getting into it.
So maybe just to start off, like what exactly is your role? I mean, we're going to start with work, but we'll expand from there. Like what do you do day to day?
So I am a project manager. I still like to just tell people that I make sure it gets done on time and on budget, and whatever you think happens, must happen to achieve that, I do. But really, we've got a large management team behind us, at City Center, as well as accounting and payroll, and accounts receivable, payables, everything. There's a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily have to worry about that you're, more family developer, family office, or family business developer would truly be having their hands all over. But it's a lot of asking good questions. I mean, I don't know as much as most of the subs, really any of the subs or the engineers and the architects. It's really just a matter of asking good questions and then following up, staying organized, and making sure that you're getting the answers that you need to, continue to push the projects along. But otherwise, I mean, as I'm sure we'll discuss, I do not have the background for it, at least not formally, but via education.
Sure, and I guess that's a pretty good caveat because although you have a good bunch of family involved with the business, it's not like a small, like, Main Street family business per se. I mean, to say what it is, it's the largest developer within the Allentown downtown circuit, and certainly one of the largest in the Valley. So, I don't want to minimize it per se.
Well, no, but that is a key distinction. I mean, it is a fair size operation at this point, but it really had never been, until I graduated from college and wound up coming in to work there, which wasn't the original intent. I had applications out when the guy that had my job quit, maybe 2 months before I graduated, and they kind of needed someone to come in a little sooner, and that was kind of the start of it being a family business. My father had always been in real estate, and he always been developing all over the Mid-Atlantic region, apartments, tons of these 55 and older active adults gated communities. And so when I graduated and I came on board, that was the first time anybody other than my father had worked in real estate. His father didn't work in real estate, so a lot of people like to call it a family business, but it really isn't. Although now it kind of is, with my oldest sister now coming back from New York with her husband, and they're starting a family. She's pregnant, actually. That's
congratulations.
Some great recent news. Very excited about that.
Awesome.
But the business really grew in a very professional way, with JB bringing on accounting, HR, CEO or COO, proper COO style personalities and work experience into the company. So, it's like, you can't call it a family business, but it really is at this point. We're taking, Maggie and I have important roles at the company, and your experience and and continuing to gain more experience is going to go a long way in the long-term health and prosperity of the company, which we obviously hope continues in the long term.
Sure, and I know your dad's been doing it for a while. With his, not, I don't want to say himself, but with his companies and across the different you said Mid-Atlantic region, even like across the valley and beyond. But really over the past 10 years has, really made a big splash in a lot of different ways, certainly within Allentown, but also has some projects now in Easton and some of the urban cores that we're seeing be kind of revitalized and redeveloped, and talking about how to best place make to not only serve the existing populations that are here in the valley and have been here, but also the people that are in the businesses that are finding the valley and calling them home. More recently, I think roughly 5% a year or something like that is the growth of the area, and I believe still the fastest growing percentage-wise area in Pennsylvania. So there's a lot of demand to fulfill. So like, what's something that people don't consider when they see like a new project either announced or opening up, but might be like a major factor to City Center and to even you and your role?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one there is how much, and different developers will do this differently. And this is, I think, a distinction between someone our size and we are, I think, particularly well capitalized, at our size. And smaller.
What is your size? Just like for people like in general, to put into some context, like how can you gauge that?
Yeah, including groundskeepers. These are the people who are going around and making sure that everything looks nice, and the leasing staff and the in-house painters that we have doing maintenance, and like all the way down to those people that really make the machine turn. It's about 100, if I'm not mistaken. Which kind of incorporates one of JB's older, which basically incorporates one of JB's older companies, Landmark Communities, which was how he really first started developing apartments, and then brought them in when we started in Allentown to do all the management there. And, the benefits are all rolled up into one, all those. So we're more or less operating as one entity.
Gotcha.
But how much money goes into the project before you've even gotten an approval? We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. A big building with, 250 units, you spend up to $500,000 before you even announce it to the public.
Wow. That's incredible.
And it doesn't even include the acquisition cost. I'm talking about just the land development process, engineers, architects.
Permits with the city.
This is before permits. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize is the amount of risk that someone takes on doing that. And so especially you look at, some guy comes in, and, you've seen this a couple times. It's like guy and his wife come in, they own this property, they want to do some building. They've got plans all drawn up, and it's only going to be 8 units or, it's a conversion, whatever, but they've probably already got $20,000 into their plans and due diligence and checking all of this stuff out, and then they're getting run through the ringer over some small technicalities and at the planning commission or city council if they're looking for some sort of a variance or whatever it is. And these people already have dollars out the door, and they're not capitalized like us. We have enough deal volume that if we are delayed, and so we don't realize revenue for several months later, that's not going to bankrupt us. Or even if we decide to, we've gotten projects permitted, gone all the way through the land development process, and then put it on pause, put it on hold, or even completely changed it. Now, you're going to build off of those plans that you've already put together, so it's not necessarily a complete loss in that scenario, but there's a lot of risk going out. There's a lot of risk being taken on before you hear City Center Investment Corporation is doing a project, at this street corner, it's going to be this type of product. We've already spent, probably at least $300,000, excluding the acquisition cost.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. People definitely don't think about that. I'm even involved in some real estate and some small scale stuff, and definitely don't think about costs being at that scale myself. So that's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of thinking about some of those challenges that, as a development group may have in helping to, shape a community, right? Because you're bringing so much new, right? But there's got to be some pushback from a variety of different reasons, but also you want to blend it in and or evolve the community, not just kind of manufacture something that like is a sore thumb in a way. So how do you kind of go about cultivating the community along with bringing that new community in?
Yeah, so there's, I feel like there's kind of a couple ways we do this, and there's some of them more noticeable than others. So, when we're buying an existing building that's got a tenant, we want to keep the tenant. Hey, you've already doing business down here. You've got a following at least of some sort, and giving you a better space. If we're going to tear down the building you're in, and have the opportunity to give you a better space to conduct your business, it's going to help you grow, or just simply enhance the quality of your product, whatever it is. We want to try to keep you in the building, and that's worked in some scenarios. Other people say it's time for me to retire anyway. They take a buyout of the last 2 years on their lease with them from their former tenant, and then they leave. But I think that's an important one, is making sure that those organic retailers are in the buildings at the sidewalk level, which is hard right now, especially post-COVID. Retail's been really difficult. And I think something that's been very challenging, which we have tried to do as well, is simply, what do these buildings look like? The first couple buildings that we did down here, brick and granite, fascia in different areas and everything, but still plenty of cement board, hardy cement board paneling, and vinyl siding. Really stepping away from using those materials in order to 1010 Hamilton Apartments on the 1000 block. That's it looks like it's 5 buildings, but it's one building with 110 units in it. But the facade steps in and out, slightly different color brick, different color shutters on this group of 6 windows than the next group of 6 windows. Now it looks like you've got a bunch of walk-ups that are pasted together the way that it looks on the exact opposite side of the street. And now you've got something that looks a little bit more organic, but you're offering a really nice product on the inside, and you're increasing the density. So you're increasing the amount of economic buying power that's coming into that block from a resident standpoint. And I think that's one of the most effective ways that we've been able to, try not to change the streetscape too much from its original conditions. But honestly, in Allentown, there's so many blighted buildings. I mean, there's been buildings that we've wanted to keep that we haven't been able to because they're in such rough shape. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. A lot of good buildings that had their lower floor completely kind of boxed up and wrapped in the 80s, with some completely out of place finish, and now all of a sudden the original's all deteriorated. It's unsalvageable, and now what could have been a really nice building really can't be saved. I think that's something Bethlehem and Easton have done a really great job of, is maintaining that historic feel, that organic and authentic streetscape feel that makes you feel like this place hasn't lost its identity or never lost its identity. Whereas Allentown, we've torn down so much that we really couldn't reuse, that you're winding up with a much more metropolitan feel down there, I think, than you have in Bethlehem and Easton, which I think is also good in the sense that it feels very clean, very safe, great visibility, awesome lighting, things that are a challenge when you're maintaining the authenticity of a town with let's say a street or a block that 90% of the buildings were built in before 1920.
Sure.
You don't have the flexibility to create today's standard of safety and comfort.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, we're talking about a little bit of a difference between Easton and Bethlehem. We're all in it together here within the valley, but at the same time, it's Allentown being the 3rd largest city in Pennsylvania. There is more of a metro area. It is a little bit of that higher density. And you kind of expect that from a business in a downtown, but then also getting into the people and the culture, and that's a big thing that I kind of want to get into and touch on a little bit, how that changes and evolves within this next segment. We are going to come up on a break here for a quick hot second, but again, this is Louis Holzman here with Jack Reilly of City Center, and we'll see you soon. All right, this is Louis Holzman here with Young Valley Leaders. I'm here with Jack Reilly today, and we're talking about city center. We're talking about developing. We're talking about changing communities and how that really evolves here in the Lehigh Valley and what companies and people like Jack and City Center are doing. And certainly, as the buildings and cityscape changes, that's noticeable and that's something. But another massive part and probably the biggest component is the people and the residents and those that truly do make up some of the community. And so, Jack, I know you talked a little bit about challenges from a building standpoint and a land development standpoint and what kind of goes behind the scenes there. But what are some of the things that City Center brings to the people on like a really personable and residential level? I know there's so many different partnerships that City Center has throughout the whole valley, not just Allentown, but between volunteer work and philanthropy and, building new centers for community services and children. And there's a real estate lab for, single family people or, to be able to understand how to get involved on that scale and probably so much more. So can you talk to some of that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, the whole story behind the NIS is that Allentown had taken an economic decline, and this is incentivizing really the private sector to come in and take advantage of these opportunities to breathe some life into it, which is what we've been doing. So from a selfish standpoint, there are projects that there are things that we do that are that really do help the value of our assets, like we put on the facade grant programs. Those people who do own, home ownership rates in Allentown are extremely low, probably somewhere around 25%. I remember, say, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it was around 20% of the residents in Allentown owned their home. And that could have been a statistic that was more geared towards the downtown of Allentown, because Allentown is a large city and acreage as well. But those people who do own it, who do own a building that could have multiple tenants and something like that in it, they don't have the money to actually, increase the value of their property.
Sure.
We have the money, and so we're putting up, these forgivable grants. Matches, done them a number of different ways. Some of them are geared towards the interior. You got a retail space that hasn't been occupied in 12 years. Well, let's get it occupied. We've got a whole network of contractors who we can tap into to help you get that off the ground, and we're willing to fund it as well. The facade grant programs have been very popular. We've done a bunch of those over the last 3 years in particular, and work with the city on that one. Those are a little bit selfish in that they do increase the value of our properties that are nearby. It pretties up the streetscape and everything, but really it makes the place more comfortable for just anybody who wants to come down and spend time and feel comfortable, because you're always fighting the old Allentown's dangerous stereotype. Or preconception, which is not the case anymore, but you're still always fighting it. So
Sure.
Little things like that.
Kind of like as the tide rises and water rises, so do all the boats kind of concept.
Well, exactly. And so for us to, put some money towards that, at the end of the day, yeah, it helps our project from a business standpoint, yes. But it's also a real goal of JB's, because he grew up in Allentown. He learned how to run a business by figuring out how many sodas do I need to sell at the Allentown Fair today to make money on how many sodas I bought. How many sodas do I want to buy if I want to make money today? There's only 2 shows left. How many can I carry? I'm going to sell how many an hour? Like, that's how JB, got into making money, was selling concessions and walking around with soda and popcorn and water and
Wow.
selling it at the Allentown Fairgrounds. But now those opportunities aren't there anymore. And so it's a big focus of his is making sure that others have the ability to carry, to ride the tide with us. So if we're bringing things up, he wants them to be able to do the same. And sometimes they need a little bit of help. Sometimes they need a couple patches in the hole to help them really come up with us. And then they can, really stand on their own, put the last, $150,000 that's needed to get the apartments upstairs in their building up and running. Well, now they can do it because they had help somewhere else. So that's really important. But I think something that we're most proud of is partnerships with like Valley Health Partners and CSC, the Community Services for Children, the Head Start program. And those two they're tenants technically, right? Those two tenants are in the Senator Brown Center for Early Childhood Education. I can't remember exactly what we've called the building, but this the area north of Linden Street is undeniably living in a much different socioeconomic way than much of the rest of Allentown. Very dense, very low home ownership rates, more poverty, more drugs, more violence, more petty crime as well. Whatever it is, that's where a lot of that stuff is happening. And for them to be able to access a place like Valley Health Partners and quality early childhood education is really important. The NIS only lasts so long, but having generations of future Allen High students go through an award-winning early childhood education like they give at the Head Start program, that's the way that the NIS carries a legacy on. We are in a position as a landlord to be able to make a really great opportunity for Head Start here. We don't need them to pay us rent for us to be comfortable financially on that building, because the neighborhood improvement zone has given us that flexibility. And now there is a long-term opportunity for some of the highest quality early childhood education in the country to take place right here in Allentown, tucked right there in one of its most vulnerable neighborhoods, perhaps its single most vulnerable neighborhood. And that is a really important one for us. Outside of that, we do sponsor a number of murals and public art programs, as you know, with Jane. And those, again, we're paying for the mural or we're paying for part of the mural, but at the end of the day, it's making that block more enjoyable to spend time, which feeds both a business incentive of people are comfortable rubbing shoulders with our buildings and therefore potentially spending money at our buildings or occupying our buildings, and then as well just making the whole place more inviting so that those businesses that we're not connected to have foot traffic coming by.
Sure. It's pretty incredible to see the dynamic changes over the years, and certainly a lot more to come. And maybe you can speak on that in both Allentown, I believe Easton, and maybe even something in Bethlehem. I saw in the news recently some things that are coming up either this summer or maybe even into next year. What's on the horizon? What are you excited about?
So having gone to Lafayette, I'm super excited about the projects in Easton. So the Marquee and the Confluence. Confluence is going out for bidding right now. And that's a really exciting project, first project in Easton.
What is that project?
So that's 264 apartment units over 2 stories of parking.
Downtown?
Downtown, yeah, it's a block. It's right behind the Crayola building, so a block from Center Square.
Cool.
Gonna have a pool. It'll be Easton's richest amenity package. There's probably some suburban garden-style apartments that have pools, technically within Easton. But as far as downtown Easton,
sure, this
will be the, kind of the cream of the crop, although they have been incentivizing a lot of development lately. The Matador, the Seville, the Commodore, there's, 3 of them right now. One of them, I think, is still under construction.
Yeah, Easton's came a long way over the past, 10 years. All of our downtowns have,
yeah.
But maybe just because it being the smallest of the downtown, I don't know what exactly it is, but it has a neat vibe over there.
It really does. Well, they worked really hard, like 15 years ago to get, 20 years ago to get their streetscapes in order, how they clean, lighting, making it feel safe and comfortable.
It seems like those are such simple things, but
they're the most important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comfortable, making people feel comfortable.
Making people feel like they can just stand there and walk around, and they don't need to be saying, oh, am I not watching, what's going on behind me? Like, no, you can stand wherever you want in Easton and you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And now they are incentivizing and putting out RFPs for private, developers to come in and reuse land and, give it new economic power. So they're doing that now, kind of the opposite of what Allentown's doing. Allentown incentivized the development before they decided to, go through and do all of the facade improvements, which they actually did do a lot of facade improvements right around the start of the NIS, but not in the way that Easton really overhauled everything about the way that they run the downtown. I don't necessarily know specifics, but I know that it certainly sounds like they really turned it on its head, and they have been extremely successful with that. So Easton's super exciting. Allentown, we've got the Moxie, which has been taking up all of my time.
And what's the Moxie?
So Moxie Hotel at 10th and Hamilton. So it's a Marriott product. It is a select service hotel. Really, young, youthful vibe in the downstairs bar and lounge space, with a courtyard that'll be probably function really nicely. We're expecting as like at least a 3-season courtyard. You have heaters, fire pit out there, and stuff like that. So a good spot to host an event. You can do a wedding there, things like that. Rooms are a little on the smaller side. The type of hotel that is not, you're not spending a ton of time in your room. It's very efficiently designed. They've got some neat solutions that they include in their rooms. And then that's two storefronts away from the Archer, which is our development-sized music venue that we're building right now as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so the music venue is maybe total about 2,000 capacity between two different venues, about 1,600 and about 500 on the upstairs. So the main one that's your traditional like the Electric Factory in Philly. It's got a mezzanine level, a floor level, a stage, 4 or 5 bars, your classic small concert venue, and then upstairs we have a secondary venue, more of a small comedy club style venue. So that's a really neat. We're going to be able to activate that building, activate that storefront. People going in, getting their tickets checked, every night of the week, which is also very important. Is a huge advantage. That's a huge advantage of having the dual spaces. I think that probably the most impactful project that we have coming up, though, is going to be the state hospital site. It's 200 acres right on the border between Allentown and Bethlehem. That's the closest we're going to get to doing something in Bethlehem. And right now what we're looking at, there's a very small, very, very small portion of that property that is actually in Bethlehem that will probably result in like 8 single-family homes, tacked off of a street, Bethlehem Road that's there. But it's going to have huge, economic impacts for Bethlehem as well as Easton, or as well as Allentown, because that site is really located almost equidistant to the center of Bethlehem as it is the center of Allentown, even though it's on the east side of Allentown.
So, like, any preliminary plans or thoughts or things, just a high level of what might go into that site? It's a large area.
Yeah, so, and I haven't been quite as close to it in the last couple of weeks. I know that they've been... we've been talking to different home builders, and different potential client or tenants or customers to buy land and do their own thing, stuff like that. But we really want it to be a legacy. We want it to be a legacy product, something that we own, at least own chunks of it. We want for sale products. We want people to be buying their own property. So we're not going to own the whole thing, but we want to make sure we're working with the right partners. So it's probably going to be some level of medical office building and kind of neighborhood retail, things like grocery store, stuff that everyone's going to be able to use, not just the people who buy the new houses that we're going to build behind it. And then, like I said, new residential. So It could be some sort of it could be a small garden style or, higher density multifamily product. But we're definitely going to be doing, the townhomes, some single family homes of varying sizes, townhomes of varying sizes, everything from 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom, townhomes and things like that. We've thrown around doing an active adults community there. We've thrown around, could you do a hospital or a micro hospital or, some of these new healthcare solutions products that they're putting out.
Sure.
So, it's 200 acres. You could do whatever you want there, really, more or less.
So, I appreciate that insight. We're looking forward to seeing what comes up and alive there. I'm sure that'll happen over the next 5 to 10 years, really being brought fully into life. But we are getting close to the time here. So, Jack, I really appreciate you coming in here. It's been a lot of fun getting to learn a little bit more about yourself and about City Center and talking about some of the development initiatives happening here in the Valley that you're helping to spearhead. Before we leave, any advice, final comments, words of strength or encouragement for our upcoming leaders listening in?
Yeah, I'd say keep making connections. I mean, the more you connect with the people around you, whether they're your age, 30 years older than you, or 10 years younger than you. I mean, keep talking to them. You never know where they're going to be. They may be in a position where they're looking to hire somebody, or they're looking for advice and they're coming to you. That's how you really get yourself, develop some skills. But really, if you can show somebody that you're smart and that you can learn, there's a lot of opportunities out there that you're going to be able to take advantage of, and that could be what starts your career. Yeah,
that's great advice. I mean, it's called 6 degrees of separation, right? And I mean, especially if you think about the Lehigh Valley here, just in itself, It's really more like 2 degrees.
No, absolutely.
So,
that's exactly right.
Connecting with people is critical. But that's about the time that we have. Anything else on your end, Jack?
Just thanks for having me. This was an exciting day for me, and I'm happy to have been able to participate in the show.
No, I'm thrilled that you were here to join us. It's been a lot of fun. Episode 5 of Young Valley Leaders in the books here. Big thanks to you again, Jack, for joining us today, bringing these valuable insights into the world of real estate and development and community placemaking. Been a pleasure having you. And certainly look forward to any comments or feedback from anyone on the show that they may have. You can find the show airing monthly on WDIY 88.1 FM on the second Monday of each month at 6:30 p.m. And forever streaming with all our other episodes on WDIY.org, along with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and WDIY's YouTube and social media channels, and I believe NPR. A big shout out to some people making this program possible. Lauren Matthews with an awesome logo for the Young Valley Leaders brand. Matt Cajun live and in studio making this interview come to life on video and on screen. So thank you for that. James, Seamus, and all the good folks at WDIY for giving time and space to bring the show alive and supporting efforts to disseminate across the website, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and social media. Again, I'm Lewis Holzman, your host of Young Valley Leaders on WDIY 88.1, Lehigh Valley Public Radio. Thanks for tuning in, and until next month.